Hey, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co, and today I'm reviewing Jibber Jabble from AllPlay. Jibber Jabble is a 3 to 30 player party game designed by Cassie Sykes in which players are attempting to help the guesser figure out the word through spelling. We'll talk more about how that works in a second. Before we do, this channel is currently sponsored by AllPlay. More about them at the end of the video, and in case you caught that, this game is from AllPlay. This channel is sponsored by AllPlay. That inherently introduces bias. I will obviously do my best to counter that and be as neutral as possible while covering pros and cons. But if you find this is a review that's not for you because of that, totally get it. Check out other channels covering this game. Although actually that brings us to a relevant part over here. This game isn't even out yet. This is a pre-production copy. I believe this game is being released at Gen Con. I am not the only one who has a copy. You might be able to find other reviews, but I haven't seen other reviews at the time of filming, so keep your eyes tuned for this one, because I think it is a game that will be very fun. With that said, the general idea of the game is you're going to pick a card over here. We're going to grab the card, and I'm going to kind of simulate this. I will say this is the kind of game I can't truly simulate if I'm the only one, because I have to guess and spell and all that. But we're going to go ahead and look at it. Let's go with a medium clue. So I'm going to pick, let's say, 3. Now, you have another player looking and choosing, so the players are helping choose. And in this case, 3 is bow. Oh, that's going to be annoying. Okay, bow. Bow is actually not the easiest one, because bow has multiple meanings, but that's a level 2 word. There's levels 1, 2, and 3 are the words. So 1 and 2 are easy, 3 and 4 are medium, and 5 and 6 are hard. You're going to be going through 6 cards in the game. Now, obviously, this is a party game. You can make it yours however you want. The official way you play is you're going to be going through 6 clues, and you're scoring yourself or your team, which is all of you playing, based on how many of them you guess correctly. Now, all the other players in the room know that the word is bow. I am the only person who doesn't right now. I mean, I do because I have to teach you the game, but in theory, I do not know the word is bow. And so another player takes a look, and he starts spelling A. The problem is, the players are trying to work together to spell the word. Well, not the word itself, to spell the hints that will get you to the word. You have 3 hints to spell, which means you need to figure out what are going to be good hints, and then spell them together. The problem is, when I say spell them together, the first player says A, the next player has to continue spelling without knowing what the first player's intent was. Now, depending on how you interpreted bow, you might be able to do that. Because if you thought a hair bow, you probably have no idea. In fact, you might go with C? Like C, I guess C, and the next player is like, oh, an accessory, C. Okay, double up. Accessories with 2 C's, right? I'm pretty sure it's 2 C's. So players might start trying to work their way towards spelling accessories. Not necessarily the first thing they would have chosen, but like you started with A, we have to finish spelling something. The problem is the first player actually had in mind arrow, like a bow and arrow. They were thinking of 2 totally different words, which is where the chaos of this game actually is kind of a good word to choose. That's where the chaos of this game can come into play, because it's not only just about how you can be on the same wavelength about what to spell, you may not even be working in the same atmosphere because you have different words in mind. But the general pitch is that players can see the word you're trying to get, they don't know the clue that you're trying to give, and they have to cooperatively work to spell that with only being able to communicate by saying jibber or jabble. Jibber means I know what's going on and I'm continuing, and jabble means I got nothing. Which, I mean, you could say nothing. You could literally just say nothing and just go with the spelling or not. But in case you're really stuck, you could be like, jabble, guys, jabble, jabble, jabble. Like, you can't communicate past that unless you start using hint cards, which we'll talk about soon. But basically, you're trying to spell the clues. Now, so for a word like bow, maybe accessory worked, and the next player, by the time they actually get it, because the first player is the only person who actually thought like a bow and arrow, everyone else is thinking of bow on your hair, so the next player starts with H. And so the next player goes, okay, A, I, R. You can spell it out, and at any point you can say stop and go to the next word. You have 3 words you're trying to give. The chaos of it is that you're trying to give these hints, but the problem is you don't know if you're on the same wavelength as you play the game. You have to be on the same mind meld as your teammates as you go through it. That's the basic pitch of Jibber Jabble. There's also going to be power cards, these hint cards over here. These give you different things you can do in the game. For example, you could, on a count of 3, everyone except the guesser shouts a letter at the current player. Those are things that can help you out in a pinch, except the problem is, if I did A and the person can't think of anything, you might have one person going R, another person saying C, and you're like, R or C, which is the next letter in this? You don't actually know if you're on the same wavelength, but you have these cards basically that give you these powers that can help you out when you need to. You are allowed to communicate with the team if it's a good time to use that, so you could do Jibber Jabble, and I think we should use a hint card. Those are basically your options as you play. Now, the only other thing to cover, there's a bunch of challengers or other modes to go with. The game recommends starting the game off by having 2 easy, 2 medium, and 2 hard. From there, you can start doing any kinds of different challenges. Do 6 hard mode. Do all of those. There's a one where you can play with a phonics aspect. You have to spell out the clues, but not correctly. So you have to make the sound of the clues. So like arrow, if you're trying to give arrow, I don't even know how you would do arrow. Arrow could be A-R-R-O, maybe, or A-R-O-W. There's different ways. You have to figure out a way to spell the hint, but in a phonetic sounding way, but not the actual spelling. There's all these kinds of small mini challenges you can go through, but the basic pitch is you're trying to spell clues to the central word while being on the same wavelength with your teammates. With that, let's go ahead and dive into my review of what I like about this game, or what I don't like, all that stuff. This is a fun party game. I played this for the first time at, I want to say, Dice Tower Retreat. Someone from Allplay had a the original version of this game, because they're doing a revised version. You can find copies of Jibber Jabble, the old version, in the wild. This one looks significantly better overall, and the rules are a little cleaned up to be a little bit more streamlined. But the basic fun of it is the chaos that ensues as you work together. Like, if you've ever played games that involve giving hints to get to a central aspect, because again, if the game was just figure out what bow is, you could do, I don't know, arrow, string, and weapon. Those would work if you're trying to do bow. Or, of course, you could do hair, accessory, tie. Those would also work. Those would be 3 separate clues that guide you towards bow. But you're doing that basic premise, but you're doing so without knowing if you are on the same wavelength as your other teammates, and often having chaos ensue. I can't remember what was the time. I'm trying to think of, I've played this game so many times, and there's so many small stories that have developed, and there's times where players are just giving terrible. I think one was, there was a word was mouth, maybe, and someone started spelling red. Like, red was his go-to clue for mouth, as opposed to anything else that is closer to mouth. The problem is, if the word is mouth and someone says R, where are you going to go? What exactly are you going to... I think it was tongue. It was tongue, and he did red. And, like, how do you get from point A to point B when you're trying to figure these out and somebody else doesn't get it? Somebody's like, I got a clue. H. And no one else at the table understands what's happening. It is absolute chaos when you play the game, and the chaos, it develops these little mini stories. If you've ever played any party games like monikers or whatnot, sometimes through playing the game, you develop these moments that you still talk about, you know, a year later, 6 years, I mean, it hasn't been 6 years for me, but you can talk about these stories later as you go through it. You're like, remember that one time I was spelling this and you thought that, and then we went there. It develops these mini stories as you play because of the fact that you're not on the same connection, because of the fact that you can't read each other's minds, and you start having these bizarre options come up that no one else thought would be reasonable. But here you are, you're stuck spelling a word that no one knows where this is going, and you're all trying to figure it out and pivot. Because one of the things that will frequently happen is I have a clue in mind, so I say B. You can't think of my clue, but you manage to think of a different clue that B. You don't know what mine is, so you eventually think of something, you're like, oh, yeah, I could do a B word, I. And I'm like, B-I, the word is B-A. Like, it's clearly a B-A. What is B-I? And now I'm sitting there spinning, trying to think through the word you're thinking of. And usually within the group, some people are in Team A, some people are in Team B, even though it's a cooperative game. Ultimately, this is a game of pure chaos, disguised with a goal of, hey, we are trying to work together to give hints to the guesser so that we can actually win. To me, this game is less about winning, and it's more about just watching the chaos unfold as you play, which results in a generally fun time across the board. The one thing I do not like about the game, but it is a relatively big one, is the way the game can be gamed. What I mean by that is there's certain things in play, both like literally in the rulebook. For example, an example that they give is Alabama. So if you're doing Alabama, you can spell sweet home without stopping. You're allowed to spell anything. They don't have to be correct as far as how the word is actually spelled. So if I do Alabama, you can spell sweet home, and you got 2 words together at once, assuming your team decided not to stop. The problem is you can't communicate, so you might spell sweet, and the next person might say stop. But if you're playing with a different group, you'll spell sweet, and the next person will go straight into H. And that's just one clue. Sweet home is a valid clue because anything is a valid clue. Correct spelling is not a requirement. That also means you can game the game with small things like, oh, I'm spelling sweet, so I go S, W. The next person can't think of anything, so they go X. The person after them goes E, E. I have unfortunately had it happen in a group where we just kind of agreed without saying it. We kind of just got to a point where we realized we'll just insert an X when we don't know the next letter ourselves, and hopefully the player after us knows what's up, and the guesser knows to ignore the X. We never said this. It took us like 1 round for us to figure out that that was legally allowed and doable, and I hate that because now I have to like house rule things that correct for the rules. Like, how do you even make a rule that avoids that? How can you bypass that? So that's the one thing that holds this game back for me, the fact that there are times or group dynamics where certain things can remove some of the fun of the game as you try to game the system, or have to internally work towards not gaming the system through artificial rules adjustments. It's the one thing I don't like. but it can take away some of the charm of the game. As far as I can see, others not liking the game, this is a game where you can feel stuck. You can sit there, not only do you feel stuck, you can sit there and feel like the village idiot. Because you have people spelling words around you, and it gets to you, you're like, I don't know, what is the words Alabama? What does SW have to do? Star Wars? Was Star Wars filmed in, like, I have no clue. I mean, Star Wars was not filmed in Alabama. I don't think it was filmed in Alabama. But I'm saying, you sometimes you just feel like an idiot because you're not picking it up, and the entire table around you is, and then you just feel stupid. That doesn't happen a lot, but that can happen in the game, and sure, I can be forgiving of your clue, but you're in the moment and you're like, gosh, it's my turn again. This is the second time in a row where I have no clue what everyone else is thinking. I'm clearly not on the same wavelength. I feel like I've said the word wavelength 7,000 times in this review. Wavelength is a different party game, but this very much has those vibes. So that's the one thing that I'd say. It's if you're not comfortable sometimes being on the spot and clearly not knowing how to help your team, then this game definitely has those moments. As far as final thoughts on Jibber Jabble, I really enjoy this game. The one thing that holds it back for me is that big aspect, the loosey-goosiness around the rules, and how that can take a little bit away from the experience as you attempt to figure out how to play by the rules, because I don't have simple fixes to these things. What are you supposed to do? Just not have I don't have simple fixes. So some of these things can get in the way. Past that, when you don't have these issues, the game is an absolutely hilarious time. It's very much like Just One, if Just One were more about the fun and less about actually trying to make the wins happen. Don't get me wrong, you will try to make the wins happen. You'll try to win as a team in this game, but it's so much about the chaos. It really does engender what a party game is supposed to be. I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5. I really enjoy it, held back by loosey-goosey rules issues. As far as other game recommendations, I mentioned it a second ago, but Just One. This game feels like someone took Just One and said, how can we make this a little bit more entertaining while maintaining the otherwise spirit of the game? Definitely strong similarities between the two. I'm a huge fan of Just One, huge fan of Jibber Jabble. And then also, if you want a game that has that kind of being on the same wavelength, but in a more competitive manner, check out Captain Obvious from Lucky Duck Games. It is a bizarre party game that manages to work and be very entertaining every time I play it. And then I mentioned that Allplay is a channel sponsor. In addition to the fact that this is obviously their game, you can go to allplay.com and check out a variety of games from the various publishers they work with. And if you are in the US, it's $4 flat rate shipping for any number of games you get from any of them or their partner publishers. For today, I'm going to be talking about Three of a Kind. Three of a Kind from Weird City is a game where you have a kind of overall category, such as like movie genres. Then you have different adjectives about them. So like, or not adjectives, descriptions. You have the deadliest movie genre, and then players have to try to figure out, what do you think the deadliest movie genre is? I personally would put horror, but maybe you put historical documentary. It depends on the historical documentary. It's another party game of being on the wavelength in a different kind of way. In any case, until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. Hope you found this review helpful, and as always, I hope you have a good one.